Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to discuss charting in App Builder. So we're going to look at the options you have for charting, and then we're going to look at how you can take that even further in code. So of course, the domain of charting is very deep. There's a ton of stuff that goes into data visualization. We have actually really good docs on charts. We redid them over the last maybe couple years. And we have a lot of do's and don'ts, best practices on every single chart type, which is extremely useful. I'll show a link to where you can find all that information today. What we're going to do today is we're going to have George Abraham give us a demo on what you can do in App Builder with charts. And if you recall, charting is something new that we added this year. So prior to this year, we didn't have charting. We had grids and all the other controls. We added charting, and we're going to continue to improve the charting as we get feedback and as we just kind of evolve the product. So there's a lot going on with App Builder. As you know, this is a pretty exciting month for App Builder. We have a big release in the third week of October, probably between the 21st and 26th, where we're going to release more controls, more capability in terms of data entry CRUD. We have master detail coming shortly after that. In the October release, we're also going to give you more flexibility on column configuration. So there's a lot of neat things coming. So you're going to see a lot of improvements in how you can accelerate app delivery, not only with charting, but with some of the features that you're going to get in the next month of releases. So of course, with us today is George Abraham. He's the senior product owner, senior UX architect on App Builder. Brian Lagunas is also on the line, as well as Zdravko. So Zdravko runs the product teams, and Brian is the product owner for many products here at Infragistics and does a lot with the data visualization side. And he also does a lot with our Reveal product, which we've also done in some recent webinars, which is an embedded BI SDK that happens to use all of the charts that you're going to see today. So today we're going to go over some of the App Builder benefits. We're going to look at how you can do data visualization and charts in Blazor, how you can customize those charts in code. Then we'll wrap it up. I think if you've never seen our charts before, you'll just be blown away, not only at how much flexibility you have, but how easy it is to just experiment, configure, and get these charts going. So these are very powerful controls. I know I've shown them in previous webinars, but to do or to display visualizations is not complex. It's not difficult. Obviously, App Builder makes it really easy, but we also make it easy in code as well. Some housekeeping, make sure you ask questions in the Q&A and chat window. And the recording will be sent tomorrow to everyone. So we will send the link up on YouTube. So again, this is a series of webinars on CRUD and web APIs. You're going to see a little bit of web API today. We're not going to do any CRUD, of course, because it's data visualization, but we are at this September 27th, September 28th timeframe here, are based on where you're at in the world. October 11th or 12th coming up, we're going to do EF Core Power Tools, which is pretty slick. We did EF Core a couple webinars ago, or actually the last webinar. And with the Power Tools, it kind of gives you a little bit more automated code generation. So you're going to learn how to use that and really create this whole web API even faster with your tables, your views, your stored procedures, get, post, puts, and then how you can implement those in App Builder and in code. October 25th, we'll probably do a What's New webinar. While we may be officially releasing maybe around that week, the week before, we already know everything that we're releasing. So at this point, it's a matter of docs and testing. So that's kind of where we're at today. November 8th, we're going to look at Azure Key Vault, and that's about securing credentials and using Azure for your database, for your web apps. And we're going to go through the whole round robin of building a web app, deploying it to Azure, deploying a database, and then securing your credentials so everything happens in the cloud and you're not passing around plain text stuff. November 29th, more CRUD, Blazor CRUD forms, things like that. December 13th, we'll do a roundup and probably highlight some of the stuff that we're shipping between the middle of November and the end of December, and then what's coming in January, because we are releasing about every 2 weeks, at the max every 4 weeks, new features across App Builder. So again, why do you need App Builder? These numbers don't change much. We're going to ask you to fill out a survey at the end of today's session as well. But we do know that tools like App Builder accelerate the screen design that you spend building your screens in HTML, CSS, screen layout, and all that. The problem is these are, even after all these years, working with HTML and CSS is still really hard. And you have to be sort of like, this is all you do to be really good at it. You can't be a general purpose full stack developer and expected to be an expert at everything SQL Server or Oracle or Postgres, everything Web API, everything CSS, everything data binding, everything entity framework. It's really hard to do that. And so if there's time savings that we can give you in a tool like App Builder, we can. And our data shows, based on your answers that you give us, is around 70+% of your time is spent creating screens, doing screen design. We can accelerate that with App Builder. And we all know that most of us don't have designers. So 72.1% of us do not have a design team or a designer to help them do this work. So if we can, again, with App Builder, give you the ability to theme, give you templates, give you everything that you need to just get going. When you don't have that designer, you're going to save a lot of time. You're going to get going easier, and it's probably gives you a lot more confidence in that next application that you're going to build. So with that, let's go into our demo. George is going to take over the screen. We're going to look at charts and App Builder, doing theme customizations, doing some data binding, just all the things that you can do there. And then I am going to show you how to do a little bit more in code. So George, I will stop my share and I'll let you take over from here.
All right, it says participants can now see your screen, so it's all good. So if you've never seen App Builder before, which would be surprising because Jason has done plenty of webinars on this, what you see here is the default landing experience for anybody new to App Builder. What you're seeing here is a group workspace because we have this concept of allowing other members to be added to the same workspace, so you could be working on the same app together, and like everybody has access to it. For our chart demo, I'm just going to create a brand new application here. And what you see in general when App Builder is, as you kind of start creating new applications, we are presenting to you both this concept of sample apps, which will help you kind of get started with the journey very quickly to have a finished app with look and feel for it and then play around with it. And then we have templates, which basically represent all the common navigation templates you would find in apps you're going to create. So I'm going to use the blank template for now. So I'm going to click Use Template. And as you come in here, we again try to make it easy to quickly do layouts for the web, right? And that's another challenge for some users. They're not familiar with how layouts are actually done. So guess what? We are allowing you to create some of these layout presets. You can change and edit it at will. So for now, I'm just going to pick this 2-column structure here. And that pretty much adds the flex columns in here. So this one is a column layout. So anything which is added in here will stack vertically. Same thing for here. And both these sections are available as the row. So they kind of stack horizontally. So charts are actually available in the toolbox, just like any other component, right? So if I, for example, want to get a component into my design surface, I would say get a grid. I drag and drop, voila, I have a grid. Charts work exactly the same way. So now if I search for a chart, you'll see we have 2 kinds of charts here, but that is just hiding the depth of the charts. The category chart, it actually contains a lot more common chart types, which you would find like line, area, and column. And pie chart, as the name defines, is just a pie chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop the category chart into this layout section here. And as you can see that the chart sizes itself, it is already bound to mock data. So this actually kind of touches upon the data binding story, which is available for the chart. And in this other section here, instead of dragging dropping, we also have a quick way of adding components, which is just by using Control E on Windows and Command E on Macs. I'll just Command E, and I'll say, give me a pie chart. In terms of chart, it actually touches upon a lot of the core functionality of the chart. So all the charts by default, they're actually bound to data. And of course, you've seen the past webinars of our data story is I can actually create a new, the REST API data source, which I'm not going to do today, but you can connect it to an open API definition. You can create a GET request and get your data from your source. And once you have done that, it's available for you in the toolbox. But on top of that, when I actually select a chart, you can see that there's a data combo here, and that will actually expose all the data sources I have. And some of them, like we have some mock data source called financial. which actually has more numeric data, right? So that's why it's available here. But I can just come in here and say, give me global electricity demand, and then it just binds directly to data, which is kind of awesome. I'll go back to my previous one, box office revenue. And by default, we have this option to automatically detect what kind of chart is best fits the kind of data you provided. So in this case, it's setting it to auto. But if you open this up, you would see all the other chart types we have. So I have area, column, line, point, spline area, waterfall. So these are all the common business chart types you would actually see. And then on the property sheet here, we also have the ability to change something. So for example, if the data you provided, it has a lot of fields and you do not plan to, plot everything in here, I can always edit my list of fields. And in this case, it has only 2 value fields, which is automatically detected. And that's why you're seeing this 1, 2, 3, and 1, which is determined as category, the franchise name. And we automatically map them to this axis on the bottom and the vertical axis here. But if I had more, or if I want to show fewer, I can always come in here and say remove one of them, and it goes away. You can't remove the last one. It needs at least 1 for the chart to even exist. But once I want to add it back, I can just hit the plus and bring the highest grossing movie details back into my chart. Similarly, I can switch between chart types right here. I can say, okay, this was set to auto, which is the same thing as column. I can change it to area, line, spline, all of these things are actually built into the component itself. Then we have this capability to add some theming information, right? So App Builder in general uses an application style theming. So what that means is that if I have, say, 50 views in my application, the designers or developers can come in here and say, you know what, I want to actually set it to a different theme altogether, or I can do a fluent glide. But as you can see, as I'm switching between these themes, you don't see much happening here, only because I don't have other components to showcase here, because the chart itself, it relies on series data, and it is not sufficient sometimes to have what the application level theme is offering. And here's what the application level theme offers. So I can hit duplicate here. And if I go into colors, you see that our philosophy for application theme is that you set a primary color, you set a secondary color, and we generate all these palettes such that they are discernible automatically, right? But this does not contain all the chart colors, because for that, what we have done is we have exposed the ability to set the palette directly inside the chart properties here. So you can see it has 2 default themes. The default is the one which is picked. And then we have another one called colorblind proof, which is just showing you a theme which we have, which allows you to switch it out dynamically in terms of what the colorblind proof theme would be. But if you want something really custom, something which say that you found on the web, or you have some style guides, which is dictating how your charts should actually look. This is one example of a site I found. It's called Data Color Picker. And this one helps you generate palettes, right? Based on the number of colors, whether it's a background is light or dark, whether you want a single hue or do you want a divergent hue. And these kind of colors are very useful depending on what your use case is. So here it's showing you a choropleth, and it's showing you what kind of colors would actually look nice. So if you are using something like this, hey, guess what? I can just come in here and say copy the hex values. And I can come into App Builder here, go into my palette, add a custom palette, and it just punches in all the hex values here. I hit enter. Well, that palette was not really good, but you can always kind of customize and tweak this. But essentially what I'm trying to show you is you can actually provide your own palette. So, just for fun, let me just get this divergent palette. It's got 9 colors. I say copy hex values, go back to App Builder and say edit, paste. Let's see if this looks any better. Marginally better. But these are not my colors. This is something which I created using this generator. But this is how you would actually change the colors for your charts. And anything you set up in this manner would automatically be generated. The way the themes would actually work is you don't see it enough here, but if I zoom in, The typography for this particular chart is being determined by the global application theme. So in this case, the material light uses a font called Titanium Web. If I select this one, you see the text has been updated for Titanium Web. Same thing for Bootstrap. It uses Roboto for us in our theme, and then it just updates the typography based on that. If I preview this chart right now, you can see that there are some features which are already turned on by default. So we are not exposing all the features of our chart because our chart API is really rich, but in time we will be adding all of these capabilities into App Builder. But right now you're seeing the tooltips that are enabled by default and also the final value markers. So as I hover over things, it's actually showing you the computed value where your mouse cursor is. And this stuff is already available out of the box. Same thing happening for the pie chart. But as I open it up further, as we open up App Builder further, you will be able to add more colors and features into the chart itself. Here I can change the title for the chart. So in here I can set the zoom level to the zoom to fit and say webinar column chart. And it's added directly in here. It knows exactly where it needs to go. And then I can always change horizontal axis. So I can say franchises. And then I can also set the angle. Depending on how long your labels are, you are able to actually change the orientation for the labels from here. And same thing for vertical axis. You can set a range. By default, it's set to auto. And then you can set the interval level if you want to change it. By default, we take care of all of this. That's the beauty of our charts. We do all these computations for you and determine what would fit best. I talked about the types, data, the series of the data, the palette setting, and all the properties we have currently exposed in the chart. Here's an example of an app I have created with all the chart types we have. So this is the column one, area, point, line. Then we have spline and spline area. And then we have waterfall, and the waterfall automatically takes care of, you need data which kind of suits that purpose. But depending on how the data is available, it's showing you the accurate drop in value in this particular case. This is bound to a specific financial data also. And then we have pie chart. For pie charts, we also expose this ability to create the others category, right? So if I come in here, I select my pie chart. The others category is some way of setting a threshold value. Like in this case, it's set to %. And it's basically telling you that if there is value which is less than a certain amount, group them all together instead of getting these tiny slivers in your data. This one actually takes care of that by adding the others category. So that pretty much summarizes how easy it is to drag and drop a chart. I talked about how you can easily, bind data, control what series to actually show in your pie charts. And then I talked about the special things about automatically computing ranges and automatically setting colors as best we can handle for you automatically out of the box. And with that kind of summarizes what we have for charts in App Builder. I didn't show anything about the code gen part. I don't know, Jason, if you are going to talk about what the code gen story would look like, or did you want me to show it here?
Yep, absolutely. I will generate a little code. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Share screen. So there was a couple questions about, well, first of all, I wanted to highlight when you go to any of the products under design and development on our homepage, Angular, Blazor, React, Web Components, they all have the same sort of a chart section. So you can see the various chart types with the chart features. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to see, common use cases for the chart, best practices. And then you'll notice here, like there is samples for every aspect of what you can imagine with the chart. So there was some questions about, oh, what if my data looks like X, Y, or Z? So we have two charts. We have a category chart and we have a data chart. The category chart is looking for a string and a numeric value. If there's a string and a numeric value in your data, it'll automatically bind to those first fields it finds in the data set. If you have I want to specify this field or that field, you would use our data chart. And our data chart allows you to customize series, customize axis. It has all kinds of capabilities. So through our docs, you'll be able to find literally any scenario that you could imagine with the charts. So there is no limitation to what it does. But what we've done in App Builder is we are using the category chart. And the reason we're using category chart is because that is what the majority of people use, because it does everything automatically for you. So for example, this is I'm going to take this and generate the code in a second. But anyway, I've got this orders by country chart here. So I think, yeah, I just selected, the only thing I changed here was I changed to the colorblind thing, and I selected my data source, orders by country. Now, what is orders by country? Orders by country is coming in from Excel to JSON. So it's a JSON file up in the cloud, and it's already pre-aggregated. So Argentina only appears once in this data set. Belgium only appears once in this data set, Brazil, etc. And then these are the already pre-aggregated values, which App Builder works really well with today. Now, on my second chart here, I bound this to something called sales by product. Now, sales by product is a little bit different. It's got like a bunch of data that repeats itself. So I've got produce, confections, condiments, confections. You know, my category name is showing up more than once. And so it's basically just a regular table with a bunch of data. What I want to do is aggregate that, right? So how would you do that? Well, today in our current product, you are responsible for pre-aggregating data. So App Builder expects data to be pre-aggregated. When we ship in a few weeks, we've added additional features that allow you to tell the chart what you want, what fields you want to aggregate on, what fields you want to sort on, et cetera. And I'm going to show you how to do that in the API right now. But everything that I show you, you'll be able to do over here on the property window in about a month, which is actually pretty slick, because most chart packages today, you have to do all the hard work and then it just wants to display data. We're going to do all that hard work for you. So for this guy, I actually already downloaded the zip file. I already have the Visual Studio project open. And what I did here is, because I'm showing a sort of newer feature, I went to my packages here, Ignite UI. I'm using Blazor. You could, everything's the same in React or Angular. It doesn't really matter. But I went over here. I did manage NuGet packages. I selected updates. And then the package source here is the Infragistics ProGet server. If you are a licensed customer, you have access to the ProGet server, which will allow you then to connect in and get like basically the most recent builds, you know, like updates and whatnot, service releases and things like that. So you all might be working on 21 dot something. If you connect into ProGet, you can get 22.1.73, and 22.1.73 has some of the features that I want to show you today. So I'll just go ahead and hit run just so you can see this is the same thing that you just saw in App Builder. And it's basically pixel perfect to what you would expect. So here is the chart, and it looks good. And here is the other chart. So this is the one that has all of the data, and we're going to fix that up in a second. So what I want to do here is kind of go side by side. I'm going to use this new Windows 11 feature here, which has that little drop down. I don't know if you guys are running Windows 11, but it's actually, you know, relatively useful. It maybe helps you manage multiple screens at once. But what I want to do here is just kind of show you how easy it is to start working with the chart. So we have a very deep API, very rich API with this thing. And so one of the things is that you can just start, like, type any letter that you want. So like, I want to type the letter A because I want to do something with the letter A, or I want to do something with an axis. And then all of a sudden you can see all of the things that you can do with the axis. So let's say you want to change the crosshair annotation, y-axis text color. Yes, you can do that. So all of these capabilities are available to you. Even something like brushes. So brushes is the actual color of the chart. And I want to change this to, let's say, a lighter color of green, which I kind of copied something over here. Let me type it in, D7 and then F2, which I thought was a nice color of green. I'm going to hit save. Let me go back to this chart. Let me do a hot reload, and then you'll be able to see that this guy changes to this nice color blue. You'll also notice that the green stayed because that is an outline. So if I want to get or set the palette for the outlines of my brush, I can just say outlines, and I'm going to give it the same color that I just did here. So let's do this, and we'll paste this guy in. And now if I save and do a hot reload, you can see that it gets rid of that outline. The other thing is the app builder is sending me the chart type. If I just go to category chart type, I get the options that I have for the category chart type. So I can change all of that right here. I'm going to leave column here for a second because there's a few more things that I want to do with this chart. Now, one of the new features that we added with this is, and that's why you need these new builds, is the ability to do sorting on the chart based on some aggregate value or based on some value that's coming into the chart. So what I want to do here is I want to say that my initial sorts should be orders, and I want orders to be sorted descending. So we can hot reload this, and you can see that that's what it did. If I tell it to do an ascending sort, do a hot reload, it's going to pop up the other way. The other nice feature that I really like to use is something called final value annotations. And so final value annotations will actually show you the last value or the final value in the farthest axis value of the chart. So you'll notice here when I set it to true and I do a hot reload, you'll see that I've got my 122 is my final value annotation. If I get rid of my initial sorts and I reload this guy, it maybe will help you. Oops, let me do that again. Save that again, do that again. Well, it kept my sort for some reason. This is a Blazor thing. If I stop the app and restart it, it'll probably do it correctly, but I don't want to do that. Blazor, WASM sometimes get confused. But the nice thing about the final value is that if you don't have a sorted bunch of series, you'll still get that value to pop up, which is actually pretty slick. Now, a few other things that I might want to change here. You'll notice that I do have a crosshair, and the crosshair, as I hover over values, is kind of showing me the value in the left gutter and the y-axis gutter. Crosshairs have a bunch of different property settings that you can set. So in this case, if I start typing cross, you can see crosshair annotations, crosshair this, crosshair that, but I want to do crosshair display mode. And the nice thing about this is as I type again, crosshair display mode will come up and I'll get the enumeration here. And I want to do both crosshairs. So I want the horizontal and vertical lines to show up when I do the crosshair. So you can see here that now I get the horizontal and vertical lines, which I tend to like a little better. Now, the other thing you might notice is that this crosshair is sort of floating all over the place. Well, what I want to do is I want to snap this crosshair to the data as I'm kind of hovering around. So I'm just going to type in SNA because I know it's snapped to data, and I'm going to set this guy equal to true. And I will hot reload this, and then you can see that the behavior is changing on what happens here. Now, another thing about charts, and this is a feature that we're actually going to implement as a default when we ship 22.2 next month, is if I maximize my screen, you can see that all of the labels are here on the bottom. Now I'm going to resize my screen. I'm going to go like this, and just to be sure, we can reload the screen. And you can see what's going on here. So I'm going to resize, and I'm not getting all of the values every single time because you need to set a property to do that. And I don't know why Blazor does this, man. This is 22.2. I think it's preview, but it's kind of annoying how it starts spacing stuff out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the chart that it should start thinking about auto rotating labels. So we've got this property should consider auto rotation for labels, and I'm going to set that to true. So now it'll always think about that when it's loading. And some of our API is very verbose, but it kind of makes it easy, easy to use. And then the other property that I want to set is the ability to tell the auto margin to automatically resize when I'm resizing the screen. So that's called auto margin and angle update mode. And that's going to be auto margin and angle update mode dot when I resize the screen, which is size changing like so. So now when I do this, and we hit save. We do this. I'm going to make the screen big again. I'll resize. You can see all my labels pop up. Come on, guys, let's go. There we go. So all my labels are there on the bottom. Now, as I resize the screen, my labels are changing as I resize the screen. So these two properties, while I just set them here, you will not have to set those once we ship 22.2. These other properties you will, because these are all sort of like preferences that you may or may not want. You know, it's kind of up to you. The other thing that I like to do, we have a product called Reveal and Slingshot, which changes the way highlighting works on series as you hover. So you've got this ability to set the highlighting mode, and I'm going to set this to series highlighting mode dot. I think the best one is fade other specific. So let me hit save on this, hot reload. And now again, the behavior is changing, and you can see that my series are highlighting a little bit different here. So it's actually pretty cool. So like with a few kind of minor modifications to the properties, we end up with something that's really cool. Now, the other thing is my final value annotations over here. You'll notice I'm getting crosshair annotations here, but what happens if I want to stick this guy over here? So of course, that is called the y-axis. So I'm just going to guess that there is something called y-axis location or something like that. So let's type in y-axis label angle, y-axis label location, and then let's do y-axis label location dot, and let's do an outside right setting and see how that looks. So we'll do a refresh. Oops, hot reload, sorry. And now we've got these guys on the outside of the axis. So now if I go back to that, oh, it's right here, dot outside right. When I hit the dot again, you can see you have inside options, inside right, inside left, etc. So you're basically just having every option on how to customize the chart to however you like. So that is very simplistic way of looking at doing some of these chart features. Now, the next thing that I want to highlight is this second chart that I did, which is the aggregate chart. So if you remember here, this guy is splatting out a bunch of stuff, right? And this is basically useless. This chart is essentially useless. So what I want to do here is actually change this guy to do some further aggregates for me. So in the to save some time, there's like 4 features that I want to show you here, and I'm just going to do a copy paste because we're already over time. But there's a really slick feature that we added years ago, which is very seldom used, which allows you to include and exclude properties that are coming into the chart. So you can see here, I've got category ID, product sale. I got a bunch of stuff coming in here. I had product names, like a bunch of stuff. Well, really all I want to plot is category name and product sales. I don't want any of this other noise. So if I update that and save it with this included properties, you'll notice now I just have exactly what I want. There's also the ability to do exclude properties. So it's really up to you if you want to exclude properties or include properties, but this is really slick. And if you're doing like WPF, because it's the same chart on every platform, you can, attribute your classes or properties with this, and it just works nicely. So now what I want to do is you'll notice as I hover over, I got seafood, grains, dairy, condiments, grains again, dairy again. So just like we had the ability to do the sorting, I also have the ability to do grouping. And then on that group, I can tell it what series information to then summarize. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to tell it that the initial group for this guy should be category name, which is what the data we told it to exclude or include was. And then I want to tell it that its initial summaries. So let's do initial summaries should be, and in this case, I want to do a sum of product sales, and I could do sum, min, max, count, average, whatever I want. And then I can just say, call this product sales like so. I'm going to go ahead and save it, and I'll do a hot reload. And like magic, what you get is just the unique category names summed by product sales. What did we do in the other chart to make sure that everything was visible? Again, you don't have to do this after 22.2, but you have to do it today. Let's go ahead and pop in our auto expanding mode and our should rotate labels guy. Let's go ahead and redo this. We'll resize this. We'll reload it. And it looks like there's more categories that fit in actually here. Let's see. There we go. Sales by product. And now if I resize this guy, they're going to just come in nicely like so. And then of course, if I want to sort this guy, since we've got these initial groups, what I can do now is I can say the group sorts should be what? Well, I want it to sort by product sales. So I'm going to say sort by product sales, and I want this to be an ascending sort. Let's do a hot reload. And there we go. We're kind of, our charts look very similar now. The only difference is the color and the data. So this guy is actually doing something by a column chart with the category name, and this guy is doing by country. Now, if I go back here, let's go back to our basic chart, and I'm going to set this to a line chart, and I'll save it, and I'll do a hot reload. I just want to show a couple other things. You can see here that I did a line chart, and this thing has markers that are visible. So the default marker behavior here is going to be a circle. So if you want to modify your markers, all you got to do is just start typing in, marker, and then you'll see you've got marker brushes, marker fill mode, marker opacity. So let's say that I want to tell this marker to be blue. I would tell it to, I would set the fill mode for that marker, and I would tell the marker to use the same brush as the blue that I'm using. I personally like the green, so it's kind of cool by me, but you can see all sorts of stuff here. Thickness, max count. We have different algorithms for collision avoidance, because if you have a lot of data, you could run into markers that are colliding. So anyway, a lot of stuff that you can do there for markers, but I want to highlight that it's super simple just to modify the chart type. And then based on the chart type, you're going to get automatically some other features you might want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this first chart here, and I'm going to add a couple things. When you want to interact with the chart, you have the ability to do that through different properties and events on the actual chart itself. So for our basic chart here, what I want to do is I want to do something on the series pointer down event. And I'm going to call this thing series clicked. All right. So now I'm going to go add this event called series clicked down here. So we're going to just call it private void series clicked. And in series clicked, what we're going to be looking for is the IGB domain chart series property event args. So what is that going to give us? It's actually going to give us the series that we just clicked on. So in this case, I'm going to say var obj. Now, what do I want? So this, just so you understand how all this kind of ties together, this guy here was loaded by this orders by country thing, right? So it's get orders by country aggregate, and the type is an orders by country. So if I go over to my Solution Explorer and you go to the data that we auto-generated, I've got this orders by country service, and I've got this orders by country aggregate. So I want this orders by country aggregate type in this namespace. So let's go back to our basic chart, and this guy is going to be dot what? Orders by aggregate country type. So I want this object to be that orders by aggregate type, but I need to cast it from args, args, and my args have what in them? My args have an item. So let's go to that args item like so. So now obj is my args.item. Now what is an obj? So let's go ahead and do this. I'll say private string header, and header will equal this, and private string value. And that's actually going to be, it's a numeric value, which is a double, because that's what the order is, right? And that's going to equal 0. And this guy here, I'm going to say obj, and this is where it gets really cool, obj country. and I've got obj dot what? Orders. So I want to set this, what did I call it? Value equals obj.orders and header equals obj.country, like so. So now header and value are going to be what I just clicked on that chart. So I need to say header and value. Let's go back up here, and I want to do a paragraph. And in my paragraph, I'm going to do like an H2, do an H2 like so. And this H2 is going to be header, and then we'll do at value. So it's going to bind header and value, which I declared here, header and value, based on the header and value that I get from the series clicked, which we did somewhere in here, right? Where is series pointer down and the final? Oh, there it is. Series pointer down equals series clicked. So did I call it series clicked? Cool. So let's go ahead and hot reload this guy. Oh, we got to stop and restart. So let's go ahead and restart this guy. And now you're kind of tying together a little bit more of doing maybe some master detail, a little bit more of getting values from charts and whatnot. But now when I bring this guy up and I click, you can see that I click on the series and I get the country and I get the value. So pretty slick. And with that, we really better wrap up because we're way over time and I know everyone is busy. So I want to thank everyone, of course, but go ahead and get App Builder today, appbuilder.indigo.design, infragistics.com, go to design and development on the main menu, and you can select any one of our products to start digging into the charts. These are the most flexible charts that you can imagine. So anything you can dream, you can do with those charts. Hopefully today, what you saw was how easy it is to get started with the API, start using the category chart and do some pretty rich customizations with only a couple property settings. I showed two sort of pre-release features, or a few actually, the initial groups, initial sorts, initial summaries. All that stuff will ship with 22.2. If you are a customer, feel free to go log into the Infragistics ProGet server and grab pre-release builds. Anything with 22 dot will have those features that I showed today, but the latest one is 22.1.73. So that is coming in the next few weeks. So it looks like everyone got their questions answered. I want to thank everyone online today for answering questions. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. And we will see you at the next webinar, which will be covering, we'll go back up here. The next webinar will be Entity Framework Power Tools with SQL Server and doing CRUD with web APIs, which will be super exciting. And you'll learn a lot from that one too. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you at the next webinar.